Hi everyone, my name is Yakov Horowitz and we're going to be talking about beginner Chumash and what you can do to help your children acquire Chumash skills. School's just out, summer starting, and this might be a great time to either work with your kids who will be starting Chumash soon, or if you have a child that's not doing well in Chumash, I really encourage you to take some of the big picture ideas and some of the tips that we have, and I really hope it'll help you help your kids. And for those of you who went to yeshiva like I did, where we were taught by rote, it might help you understand Chumash better yourself. The big idea is that the best way to teach your children Chumash is by teaching them how the Lego of Hebrew language clicks together. And although really ideally the way to teach Hebrew, Chumash in Hebrew would be to learn Hebrew language till you're fluent in it and then start Chumash, but being that not all folks are going to do that, we created this program to help you help your kids learn. Thank God we sold over 15,000 sets of these Chumash books, but you don't need our Bright Beginnings Chumash book. You do not need this book to acquire these skills. So think of it like this. There is a root word. In this case, let's take the word Amar. Okay, Aleph Mem Resh means to say. There are many ways that you can use this word Amar in a sentence. Amar is to say. Vayomer is and he said. Lamar is to say. But what you basically have is a root word, and then you have prefixes before and after that really click together like Lego does. Okay? So, for example, these are just flashcards from the book. You have the word Aretz, which means land, and Haaretz is the land. Okay? That's basically how it works. I'm not going to go into all of it, but that's the big idea. The big idea is that if your children are learning by rote, or you yourself learned by rote in school, what happens is at the beginning it's easier to teach by rote than to teach this way because you just get a lot of words in. The problem with that is that it's easy to remember 5 words and 10 words and 20 words because you just repeating by rote. The big problem is that when you get to hundreds and thousands of words, many kids and adults find it just overbearing, and it's so sad because they don't even need to do this. All you need to do is teach them how the words click together, and how you can construct and undo words by understanding how this works. When I started teaching 37 years ago, before computers, there was a fellow in Bar Ilan University who did a study on Chumash, and he discovered that 270 root words make up 93% of all the words in all of Chumash. And over 60 of those words appear between 500 and 5,000 times. So all you have to do, just imagine if you were to take the most common words and know them and know the prefixes and the suffixes and be able to find them in the Chumash, you'd be able to do it yourself. I really encourage you, even if you have an adult kid or a tween or a teen who's not doing well in Chumash, try this out with them. It's so helpful. It's almost sad that everyone doesn't have the opportunity to learn this way. Okay, so that's how we did it in our workbooks. We took 35 root words like these. Okay, bayis and ra'ah, nouns and verbs. We have the translation of the words on the back, and the kids are encouraged. They keep them in a box and they review them, and they acquire them. Just to give you an idea of how powerful this stuff is, one of my overriding philosophies in education is to teach children that they should become independent learners, that they shouldn't need us anymore. So one of the things I did when we did the second workbook, this is a page of Chumash from our second workbook. Every word that has a red star there was already covered in workbook number 1. Now, not all psukim, not all verses are like this. Here's another one that has quite a few. I mean, you get the idea when the children look through these pages after they've learned some Chumash, and after they've learned it this way, they realize the incredible power they have, that they can basically do it on their own. And we actually made a really cute game called Shorish Land. Very quickly, it's basically an idea. It's the same idea. It's just a fun way for the kids to review their Chumash. There's two types of cards, and they move ahead like spaces, like they do, in the board games. The ones with the mushrooms, they have a complex word like Vayomer, and they have to find that the person they're playing against, they get tested. In other words, the kid sees this, the other fellow who's testing him has this, Amar is the root word of Vayomer, because the Vav means and, the Yud means he. Vayomer, and he said, the root word is Amar, and you move ahead a couple of spaces if you get that right. And the other skill they basically need is translation, to know that the word Amar means to say. Okay? But again, this is our book. You can do any system you want, any way that works best for you. You certainly don't need this book. If you do want it, you can go to thebrightbeginnings.com in educational materials. Again, it's Bright Beginnings, plural.com, and go to educational materials. You'll find all of our books there and lots of resources. So here's how the book is laid out, and here's how I encourage you to think. When I first started our yeshiva, I was very determined to create materials that would support this type of learning. So what I actually did was I took over the summer, the first summer before we started the yeshiva, and I would be preparing materials for Chumash together with our superstar first grade Rebbe, Rabbi Ravitsky. What I did was I took secular reading books, language arts books that teach children how to read, and English as a second language. And I said, how do they teach language? Why can't I take those components and put them together? And what emerged, and think back to your days in elementary school, some of it might start to, the Lego might start put together. Basically, there are three skills that you need in order to master a language. The first is vocabulary, just to be able to know words, what certain words mean. And there's research on different languages. There's like a tipping point with languages that when you acquire a certain number of words and can use them and know what they mean, you can already start to converse. Again, first is language, but that's a little clumsy. So if you have an immigrant that comes over working in your home that doesn't speak the language that well, you'll just use vocabulary words. You'll use these. This is what you'll do. You'll say, pail, water, refrigerator. Okay, take the pail, fill it with water, bring it to the refrigerator. That person doesn't know the rest of it, so they just use vocabulary words. Again, this is really important as it relates to your children's learning. So the first thing they need to acquire is vocabulary, which we have those cards, and you have a running list of the vocabulary words. The second part is grammar, which in English, your teachers taught taught us, subject and predicate, noun and verb. To construct this sentence, take the pail and put it near the refrigerator. So you have a verb there, you have a noun, and those words string together to become a sentence. In Hebrew, it's really one word, because you have the root word, Amar, to say, and then you have Vayomer, and he said. So teaching the children to be able to, again, first get vocabulary words, and then put the prefixes and suffixes in place, and when they see them, for God's sake, there's only 12 of them. It's so sad, because so many kids are not getting Chumash because they don't know this, and we don't know it because many of us were taught by rote, and we just get intimidated when we get older, and we grab an art scroll. Art scroll's great, but you really can do this on your own. So again, vocabulary is the list of words. Grammar is putting them in place, which in Hebrew means to learn prefix, suffix, and how that works. The third thing is literature, putting it's understanding. In the older grades, they call it literature. If you remember back to the old school days, remember our teacher told us to take 20 vocabulary words and make a sentence with each word. That's to teach context. Or you have a reader where you have a reader that has these words in them already. So you'll have 2 paragraphs that have your 20 vocabulary words, and as you read through, you can figure out what the words mean by context. One thing that's interesting is that nouns are much easier to teach than verbs. Think of it this way. How old does a child have to be to know nouns? Chair, bottle, passy, whatever you call it, tummy, bottle, abati. They know nouns right away. Verbs is more complicated because verbs, they have to put them in a sentence, sort of. You can't teach the word flip, jump, run. You could show them possibly, but in a sentence. So that's why our teachers had us write sentences with these vocabulary words so that we can help put them in context for future reference when you refer to them, having thought about it. So what we wanted to do, I had this out-of-the-box idea to create the Chumash along those lines: vocabulary, grammar, literature. And if you look on the Facebook page, I posted 2 double sheets or 4 sheets. All of them go on the first pasuk of Lech Lecha, where it says, Hashem told Avram, leave your home and your birthplace to the land that I will show you. Okay? Lech Lecha me'artzecha u'mimoladetecha u'mibeis avicha ela aretz asher areka. Now, if you look at the word that Omar at the beginning, we didn't translate the word Vayomer and he said. Rather, the Vav has the same font as the word and. The Yud has the same black font as he. And Omar, that Shorish, the root word, is say. So, and we pull them off here on the side, and each one of those has its own flashcard. Nouns and verbs have different colors and shapes, so it's easier for the kids to find them. And we actually, I actually made them different shapes for some parents who had children who were colorblind, asked me to do that, and we found it to be very helpful for them. So again, so this is a regular translation of the first pasuk, but it just has the words broken down so the children can find it. Now, going through the homework sheets, each of these verses, each of these psukim has 3 sheets, worksheets, and they all go teaching these 3. This first sheet is the vocabulary sheet. Okay, you have on one side Amar, Halach, Bayis. Those are the actual words that they had in the pasuk. Okay, and those words were all highlighted. And on the other side, we have the English translation. So by matching the Hebrew with the English, the kids can get a sense of the vocabulary words, and then they review them with their flashcards, which helps them, memorize it. These flashcards help them attain the information and absorb it. Now, for grammar, what we did, again, in Hebrew, grammar is prefix and suffix. So what we did is we actually used coloring, which all kids love, some adults too, to take this. So let's say, for example, if a vav is and on the bottom where the code is, you see all vavs should go in blue. Lamed, another prefix, which means 2 or 4, has other colors, and by coloring this in consistently, the children can again acquire this skill of putting the words